I've gotten recent questions about how to file a complaint against a SAP. And with all the scams and misinformation out there, and they're increasing online, it's important to understand the difference between a bad experience and an unethical provider. So today, let's dive into how to file a complaint against an unethical provider and when it actually makes sense to do so. And if we haven't met, I'm Cindy Athey. I'm a DOT Qualified SAP, and I work with safety-sensitive employees after they've had a DOT violation, get through the SAP process, and get back to work. My goal on this channel is education, not shortcuts, just clear information so people understand how the SAP process works so they can get through it smoothly with less stress and get back to work. First, we need to make an important distinction. Not every situation is a scam, right? If a DOT qualified SAP completes a proper evaluation, follows 49 CFR Part 40, and makes a recommendation in good faith based on their clinical judgment, simply not liking or agreeing with that recommendation does not automatically mean the SAP did anything wrong. SAPs are required to act in the interest of public safety. They're not advocates for the employer or the employee, and two people with the same violation sometimes can get different recommendations. But here's when a complaint would be appropriate. Like if the SAP is failing to follow DOT guidelines under 49 CFR Part 40, if there's unethical behavior or conflicts of interest, refusing to provide required documentation after the services are completed, I'm thinking forwarding on the follow-up paperwork to the employer, requiring treatment only through their own program, that's unethical, it's conflict of interest, making guarantees about the clearinghouse removal or fast reinstatement. These are regulatory or ethical issues, not preference issues. Okay, so where do you file a complaint with DOT? According to DOT guidance, complaints against a DOT qualified SAP for violations of 49 CFR Part 40 are filed with the appropriate DOT authority. So for CDL drivers and commercial motor vehicle operators, that's typically FMCSA. For other safety sensitive employees, that could be complaints are filed with like the FAA for aviation or pilots, Coast Guard for mariners, or other DOT agencies depending on your role. If the issue involves discrimination, those complaints are handled by the DOT Departmental Office of Civil Rights. So here's what the DOT expects in a complaint. It's got to be written and specific. It should include a detailed description of what occurred, the SAP's name and contact information, supporting documentation like emails, invoices, reports, or timelines. General frustration or disagreement alone usually isn't enough. DOT looks for actual violations of the regulations. Now here's another important piece people don't realize. SAPs are licensed professionals. That means they're accountable to their state licensing board as well, separate from DOT. So if the concern is about DOT rule violation, that goes through DOT or the appropriate operating administration. But if the concern is about professional misconduct, things like unethical behavior, boundary violations, fraud, that may fall under the SAP state licensing board, such as counseling, social work, psychology board in their state. Licensing boards don't review whether you liked a recommendation. They review whether the professional or ethical standards were violated by the provider. And if you're dealing with employer retaliation, because that happens too, that's a separate issue, but it can be reported to FMCSA or other appropriate regulatory or labor channels, right? So unfortunately, there are unethical providers and scams out there, and people absolutely deserve protection. But understanding the difference between a bad experience and an actual DOT or ethical violation can save you time, money, and delays in getting back to work. If you ever have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below the video and I'll try to answer it. And if you want more clear, no-nonsense breakdowns of the SAP process, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I try to make videos weekly answering drivers' questions, breaking down the process so that you can get back to work and get through the SAP process. And thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.